Hey guys, and welcome to Season 2 of the Start to Finish series. This is going to be a series that's going to teach you how to finish a project from the beginning all the way to the end in the style that I build things. It's going to be sprinkled with tips and little tutorials here and there. It's going to show you how to do certain things, and you're basically just going to follow through a majority of a build. Last time we did a standard master grade build, and I went over everything from cutting and cleaning pieces, painting, priming and all that, all the way up through decals, and then taking finalized pictures of your kit. Well, to set the second series, or the second season, if you will, apart from the first season, we're going to go ahead and do something quite different. This time we're going to tackle a resin kit. Now this is the type of resin kit that I recommend working on, especially if it's your first go at resin. There's other types of resin out there. There's conversion kits, there's full kits, such as just larger kits or things like that. There's dress-up kits, there's cover kits, and everything in between. Now this is considered a full resin kit, and the reason I'm going to do this as a starting project rather than a conversion kit or a dress-up kit, something like that, is because you'll get the full experience, you'll get everything, you'll learn everything that you need to know to work with resin, and then you'll be able to take that and apply it elsewhere. So if you decide to tackle a conversion kit instead of a full-on resin kit, you just take out some of the pinning that you're going to learn and a couple of other things, but most of it's going to be roughly the same. Once you start working with resin, resin is resin. Now the first question that I expect to be asked is, what is resin? And I had prepared ahead for this, and I looked online, and I couldn't get really a clear, concise answer as to what resin exactly is. They just kind of went on about trees and things like that, and I don't believe that that's going to be the answer that any of you guys are looking for. So, to the best of my knowledge, resin is basically another type of material, not unlike plastic, but I don't believe it is a plastic. I don't know what you would call it akin to, but it functions similarly to plastic, where you can mold things in it, and it starts, well, it doesn't start as a liquid, but you can melt it down into a liquid, and then, using other chemicals, it hardens, and you can mold it how you want it. It's a little more toxic than plastic. It's actually a lot more toxic than plastic. And it holds detail a little bit better than plastic. You can get resin colored, or it can come clear. It can come, usually it's like a tan color. But this is a very favored medium by a lot of modelers out there. Anywhere from, 60 millimeter or, 20 millimeter miniatures or whatever, all the way up to the big stuff. Like there's a $2,500 1/35 XS that is as big as a small child. But anything as big as that, and then everything in between like this. So, where do I buy my resin? This came from eBay. I just looked up SD resin Gundam, and I found something I liked. A couple of trusted sellers out there. I think GK Gundam Kit. And there's another one, I can't remember what they are right now. Two of my favorite sites for resin. There's also GK Gundam Kit. They are basically, from what I understand, they're like a branch of what E2046 used to be. And then those people moved away from that, and they opened up a new site, and they kind of do better castings than E20, so people get better quality at a similar price point or better. So anyway, this is from eBay. This is Magic Cast. I've done one or two Magic Cast kits before, and I think both of them were actually the SD kits that I worked on. Another resin caster to look out for that I really like is Super G. They're not quite as good as Magic Cast, but I believe Magic Cast, while they are a recaster, typically handle in, they get direct casts, whereas Super G can be a little bit questionable at times. And then beyond that, there's a whole bunch of other recasters. Now, you're going to probably pay a little more for resin than you would a plastic kit. I believe this cost me about $60, maybe $70 after shipping, something like that. But you can get resin kits anywhere from $20, $30, all the way up to, like I said, $2,500. Now, original casts, of course, are going to cost more than recasts, because a recast is, in essence, the same thing as a Bandai knockoff. But because there's not a large market for these types of things, and there's not one or two centralized companies that own licenses or anything like that, this is all done by small groups and individuals and things like that, it's not really an illegal practice. It does hurt the original caster, but again, it's not technically illegal, I guess. I don't know the whole thing behind it. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get... Okay, now not all your resin is going to come in the same kind of box. Magic Cast kind of usually does something a little bit like this, where you get the flap and it's got everything packed nicely and neatly inside. This is the GK Gundam, or not GK Gundam kit, I'm sorry, GK model cast that I got of the Real Grade GP00, and it just comes in a 2-part box, and everything was bagged up. There's a video for that if you want to go look for it. But these come like this. Sometimes I've gotten, I think one of them that I got was in the same box as the other thing. And then all your pieces are going to be inside. Now, this also comes with 2 pieces of acrylic and some bolts so you can make a base. These are the instructions. And then all your pieces are 99% of the time going to be bagged up like this. You're going to have 2 or 3 parts per little part container. And they're all separated for you. And there's not really any order to these, so don't go looking for any particular order. They just kind of fit on from there. As such, and like I said before, since these are usually done by smaller groups of individuals rather than larger corporations like Bandai or Kotobuki or anything like that, there's always the chance that you're going to be missing something. So anytime you order a resin kit, first thing you want to do is go through it, check your cast, make sure it's clean. If you couldn't already tell, this is actually a pretty clean cast. Let me see if I can get in here a little bit so you can see some of the detail. It's very crisp, looks really nice. Very, 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 very nice looking cast. But that doesn't mean there's not problems. There's always a chance that there'll be fitting issues or things like that. So take that with a grain of salt. The next thing you want to check for is to make sure that all your pieces have been included. And this is one of the biggest things with resin, because if you order a kit and you don't have the pieces and you waited 6 or 7 months to dig into it, you know, there's not always a guarantee that you're going to get everything that you need. You might have to scratch build, or you might have to abandon the project altogether. But usually, if you're missing a piece, you can contact the buyer that you bought it from. And I've heard, you know, more often than not, especially with eBay, through the buyers that I like to use anyway, they're generally pretty good about getting it back to you. You might have to pay shipping for it, but after that, the rest of it's on them. You just tell them what you're missing, and you know, they'll get it out to you the best they can. But you want to try and be timely about that. Now, this particular kit has there's 71 pieces here for these, so 75 on this side, and then it goes up to 127. But if you add 4 and then 5, 6, 7, 8, if you add 8 to 127, that's 136, maybe, I don't know, something like that. 134, 135. But this is all the parts that are included in the kit. Now, there's a million ways you can go about doing this. The way I like to do it is I'll cut all the bags open, I'll put all the pieces in a giant pile, and then I will pick a piece up, I'll find it on here, and I will take my handy dandy Sharpie and I will just mark it off on the list. And then when all is said and done, I will go through 2 or 3 times and just make sure that every piece is accounted for, make sure that there's nothing missing. For pieces that there's duplicates of, I wait till I get all of them together before I mark it off. That way I know that they're all there. And then after I do the initial parts check, if anything's missing, it's on me. What I'm going to do is cut all these open. I'm going to go through all the pieces and I'm going to separate everything. And if everything's there, like it should be, then I will show you what to do next. So give me a second. Okay, so once you've gone through and made sure that all your parts are present, you've double checked all your check marks and made sure that everything is checked off, the next step is up to you. Now there's 1 or 2 things you can do here. You can either clean your parts here, or you can begin cleanup of your parts. And those are 2 very different things. So for the sake of ease with the build in the future, I'm going to actually go ahead and do the cleaning of the pieces. And all that means is I'm going to take some of this stuff. It's a gallon jug of Purple Power. I'm actually going to just go ahead and pour some of this into here. You don't need to water it down or do anything fancy with it. You just fill it up to your pieces. And that should be good enough. And it's as easy as that. Now I'm going to let these sit. Well, I'm about to go to sleep, but just let them sit overnight. Basically, if you really want to make sure that they're good and clean, let them sit a little longer, maybe 24, 48 hours. Give them maybe a light patch with a toothbrush as you take everything out, and then you lay it out on a towel to dry. Once everything's dried, you begin the cleanup process. Now the cleanup process is really not any different from cleaning your standard Gunpla. Basically, it's just a matter of, let's get a good piece here. Here we go. Taking your piece and removing the gate mark and then smoothing out the surface. Now, being a larger kit, it seems a little more intimidating because, you know, this is one giant block of piece rather than a snap together model kit. But it's actually easier because you're getting all 100 and some pieces done straight away rather than waiting and doing it as you snap the kit together, assuming that you remove your nub marks while you're building your kits, because I know a lot of people don't. But anyway, I'm going to let this sit. I'll come back and we will go over cleanup. Okay, so because I've opted to clean my parts first, the cleanup process basically means once this is done soaking, I've left this to soak 24 hours, now I don't have to do this anymore. So now I can go ahead and start removing the gate marks. So for this I'm going to go ahead and take some gloves, put some gloves on, just because I've read that Purple Power can irritate your skin, plus I don't feel like getting that weird kind of greasy soapy film on my hands. I'm really particular about that kind of thing. And I'm going to take these washcloths. They don't have to be clean or dirty. Just, you know, probably don't want to use your nicest paper towel, or nicest paper towels, wow. Your nicest washcloths or towels to do this. Just something that Mom's not going to get mad that you're using. So, lay these out. And just lay your pieces out. And I like to do this, you know, usually larger pieces, and then you can put smaller ones in between them, things like that. Oh, there's another one of those in there somewhere. Now this alone will make the surface of the kit feel that much better. That way you know that it's nice and clean. There's no more mold release agent on the kit. That means you can start working. And the reason you do this is so that when you paint these pieces, the mold release agent doesn't interfere with the paint, and the paint will stick the way that it's supposed to, and it will let you get you know, started with the long part of the process, and that is paint. Now, not necessary, but you might want to go at some of these with a toothbrush if you don't think that the mold release agent does a good enough job on its own. I haven't had any personal issues, but again, I also haven't done extensive masking and stuff on resin, so we will see how this project turns out, and if not, you know, we'll tackle that from there. But like I said, you want to lay all this out and get this so it can dry and not be in the way of anything. And it doesn't have to, you know, dry for like 12 hours or anything crazy like that. Just long enough for it to be dry. And I think you can eyeball that most of the time. And even so, this isn't toxic to the point where even touching it with your hands is going to do anything. It's just an irritant, I believe. So once this starts to dry, even if there's a little bit on your hands, it won't be enough to do any kind of damage. So go ahead and lay these down. There's a ton of pieces for this thing. Now this particular one might not be a good kit to start with, but there's a couple of other ones that are really nice and really simplified. I actually have a Jesta that's midway done. That's the only reason I didn't use that for this tutorial, is because it was about halfway finished. It's basically ready for paint. I didn't want to start with something that was halfway done and just kind of wing it and explain it to you. I figured it'd be easier to show you the entire process. Start laying all this down. I've still got pieces in the bath. I'm pretty much out of space. So I guess what I'm going to do is just kind of lay these down and hope for the best. The smaller ones, it's not as important that they get a little bit of space, because the larger ones, you know, have I actually don't think it really matters at all. Just as long as they're all laying on the paper towel, that's good enough. So. Oh, now this is the hardest part of working with resin, is that nothing is on a runner and nothing is numbered for you. You just kind of have to find what you're looking for and, you know, do it that way. So during this next step, I will show you how to ease your pain a little bit when it comes to that, since finding pieces can be the most frustrating part of this entire process. During cleanup, I have a method for making it not so tough. And there we go. So there's all the pieces, I believe. Let me double check my purple pond here. Yep. So we can start the cleaning process after this. So I actually think this is a good stopping point for this video. I think I am going to wrap this up here. So if you're following along, I'm not going to make this one a weekly thing like I did the last one, because this kit's going to take much longer than a couple of weeks to do. And I want to make sure that it's done properly and you guys get to see everything that there is to do. I'm going to try some new techniques on this kit, as well as some things that I know for a fact worked, so you can look forward to that. But in the next video, we're going to talk about removing the gate marks that are on all your pieces. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with gate marks, you probably shouldn't be working with resin, but gate marks are things like this. They're basically the resin equivalent of a nub. I'm going to show you how to deal with those. And then I will probably, well, I'm going to talk about sorting, and then I might start talking about dry fitting, depending on how time is looking for the video. So hopefully you have found this first step into resin informative, definitely not entertaining, but thank you for sticking around if you did. And I will see you with the next video very soon. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.